Hello and welcome, everyone. This is the Daily Dharma. My name's Dina. Welcome or welcome back. Let's take a moment, open up, sync up our energies, or feel free to fast forward through. Let's take a deep breath together. And as we exhale, intend that all of that stress, worry, anxiety, or possible dramas that are on the mind be passed through smoke, given to God and Goddess and the universe to help transmute and integrate those energies for the highest good for all. Today I have several decks that I wanted to get into. I've done a lot of shuffling in the decks to see what the pre-messages are, and I've decided to put a few out. I haven't looked at all of them. In this Notes from the Universe deck, very nice and light-hearted energies coming through there. It looks as though there may be something that you're very tenuous with, possibly even moving away from a particular person, place, or thing energy, because it says some are better loved at a distance, at least for a while anyways. Besides, love doesn't really know the difference. So there's somebody, it could be family or a friend, that you're somehow growing apart or moving away from each other for a little while, and that's okay. It's not that there's a lack of love, but it looks like you're needing a little bit of time away from that. And on the back side of the deck, these ones were the ones that flew out. The back side of the deck said, find the good in what they said or in what they asked. It's always there, even if they didn't mean it to be there. Sherlockly yours, the universe. And it says, P.S. Clues for what you want are hidden all around you. And that gives me the idea that the reason for the distance right now is possibly something that they said or asked, obviously here as it says, that may have made you feel that either you weren't on the same page with something, or that you were looking for something a little different in this phase or chapter or this vision that you're trying to pull forward, so needing to just create distance, or you were literally offended or something around that type of a gist here. And then when I split those apart, it talks about valuing somebody's playful nature and their ability to be uplifting and fun and to release that. Whether that's talking about your need to be a little more lighthearted or theirs, it looks like you're wanting that playfulness. And if somebody's been very negative or any type of lower vibe, there's some type of vibe that they're giving off in their words, thoughts, behaviors, or life choices that isn't really sitting well with you. And so you're wanting something that's going to help you tap into your joy. And on the back here of this one, it says, comparisons are odious because they presume all other things are equal, which is never the case between me and you, the universe. And of course, we're reminded with that statement that just because one person is more playful doesn't mean that they're better or worse. It's just people are in different phases at different times type of thing. So it's kind of just telling us, don't make that comparison between self and other, or two or various others, like this place hasn't been bringing me joy, so I want to move over to this place that feels lighthearted, because every place has their good and bad. And so it kind of is guarding against that thought that, what's that saying about, they thought that the grass was greener on the other side of the fence, and so they jump the fence, and then they find out that everybody here has their good and bad points. So the two that came out with that one were, you've got time, even or ever wonder what would make life's fleeting pain and sorrow totally and unquestionably worth it? How about living forever wildly in love and loved wildly? You have so much to look forward to, the universe. There's some type of balance at work with this, wanting to bring in that playful energy, it's making something worth it. The life journey, maybe something became too heavy and you just need a little bit of lighthearted energy, or getting involved with something that challenges you or pushes you out of a comfort zone. And it may seem like you're kind of leaving somebody behind, but it seems like you've got time to go out and explore something or have a different adventure or meet some new people, and it looks like you've decided that this is the time where you're going to pursue something. It says you've got more options than you realize, so maybe you are really lit up about and excited about new opportunities, or really craving something different, and so pursue that without any guilt or shame. And also don't necessarily get caught up in stories or narratives. It's like, oh, that person's no good. It's like, uh, or that environment. It's like, explore your other options and don't feel overly loyal to things that are they're just options. And some people can try to make you feel obligated, or try to infiltrate your private life, for instance, or try to be your best friend and really drag you into something and get you really settled into their world and environment. But it looks like your lifestyle or your passions are too large and expansive to be kind of pigeonholed in somebody else's little world. It's like you need to go out and adventure. And it's like I'm seeing the wild animals that sometimes they have a very small territory, and other times different animals have a much larger territory. It looks like you really need to take in all of these extra experiences because of this learning phase that you're in. So you have more options, so don't get settled into anything that isn't quite a perfect match before time to do that. It sure is hard to get really angry at somebody when you can think of all the reasons that you love them. And you can, the universe. Also, it's giving that energy of, don't let yourself feel falsely loyal again, because then it's not necessarily I guess what I'm getting to say here is that we can get caught up in feeling like, well, I have to because this person is depending on me, or these people, and I'm obligated because I've made this commitment. And then so you start resenting the individuals that your service is being called to at the same time. So it's like recognizing the choices that you're making, why you're making them, and that you don't have to make the same choice every single time. I'm hearing religiously. This could have to do with something that you're very called to do with your service work again. So I haven't read the Tao message. We'll get that in a minute. But I thought that this mixed shamanic deck here cracked me up, because I'm shuffling the deck, and a few times a card will flip, but as I'm still shuffling, and it'll flip back over, and I'm like, okay, I'll just keep going. And so I left it in the deck, and that happened a couple times, but I saw the 43 card flip in the deck: overflow, overwhelm, and plenty. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm thinking about how, again, with that big pond, it was coming through in a similar way, where we have so much to either offer, or an abundance of insight or knowledge, or we have an abundance of resources. And to, again, with that pigeonhole or being tucked in to a tiny niche for somebody else's very tiny benefit, that's only maybe 3 to 10 people getting a benefit, versus your ability to canvas a larger territory and share those resources and that abundance forward into a larger group, is so much more exponentially beneficial to the collective, right? Because every person that we're able to connect with in that divine way then has their own tribes and people and daily lives that they return to and carry that vibration forward, even if they don't carry that resource or that teaching and message forward, they're still traveling with the vibrational inner workings that are mulling over the interaction. And so they carry that dandelion spore forward. It's that seed that you've planted that might mean one thing to that person, but the 10 people that they tell it to, each one of them, it's a completely evolved message, because this person is just like that old game telephone where you whisper in each other's ears around a circle, and by the time it comes back around, it's completely changed. And I think that's because we each clue into different things about the message. Sometimes somebody might think about the way it feels and then they mistake a word, or the hearing is different, and so what you said isn't what they heard, and then what they said wasn't what somebody else heard. But it becomes personalized to each one of these people when it is a teaching, because we can't teach anyone anything truly. What we do is we give them a sense of inspiration, a sense of hope, a sense of direction, and tapping into their own inner symbolic language and their own energetic anomalies, diversities, and the inner chaos that arises. It's like when you can understand, for instance, your triggers, it doesn't matter what I've said, it's in thinking, well, that statement or whatever gesture, whatever, maybe I'm saying whatever too many times, then with the trigger, we can say, oh, well, this is feeling this way to me, so it doesn't have to do with the word maybe, or the something else, something else. It might have to do with needing to clue into your own messages instead of, for instance, judging another or feeling judged by another. Then what is working through you is your own inner authority, your urge and your desire to foster your own reality, to author your own narrative and reality. And so I'm only here saying words, and it might seem just easy, just empty phrases, but it's in what you take from it. It's in the energy of how it arises. And so we're being told here that no matter how we feel about the energetic exchanges in our lives, we have an incredible amount of insight or resources that need to be helped and shared and brought forth at this time. And it feels like you're just kind of bursting at the seams with the energy and the inspiration and the need to connect with other individuals or experiences here. So the universe brought that forward multiple times for a reason. And then under the deck, I had, oops, that one wants to stay on the deck too, on the desk too. I'll leave that. It came up this way, and there were some natural splits that I thought were interesting. So when I split the deck, it split to Dust Devil, moving out of stagnation, number 15. So any type of hermitage or playing small or learning phase. It feels like you've really advanced, and so you've learned some type of lesson, and moving away, putting distance between yourself and other experiences here may bring some nostalgia, may bring some type of reevaluation of who you are now compared to where you're coming from. Under this deck, I'm seeing lightning, which did come out in the Akashic Tarot deck in an interesting way, with mind, will, and willpower. Is that what the card was? So an activation, and it kept coming out with depictions of some type of nurturing, parenting, overseeing things, and some type of children. So children may be important to this. So also we have this deep diver diving into a task that wanted to stay on the desk there when I picked it up. It's giving energy that either something's been stalled or we've been in a place of restriction, uncertainty, unclarity. But there's the energy moving now is talking about during that time of restriction, we gathered up the force. And in the I Ching book here, it's giving this energy of, I think it's called the raging river or something, and it's coming down the mountain streams. And when it obstacles, that's the name. When it encounters an obstacle, it can't just push it out of the way, being the energy flow. It's meant to be there for a reason. And so the water in this symbol can try to go around it if that's easy enough. Like if it's just a small rock, then it kind of splits the water and the water continues on. But if it's a sideways tree, for instance, that creates a dam built up with mud, then the water coming downhill still has that momentum, but it begins to pool and it begins to build up its forces behind that obstruction until it's able to reach a certain height and momentum to pass over the top of it. So there's some type of growth, exponential ascension related growth, possibly emotional, psychological, physical, many different things going on here at once, creating all of this learning and demanding of all of us all this patience until it can move beyond what has held us up in this situation. And it may have to do with leaving some energies in the past here. The other side of the deck here, the medicine wheel came out. And at first I thought that was really interesting because, again, we're talking about possibly the shadow and light aspects of ourselves and others. But at the same time, we're talking about how unity consciousness tells us that as long as we can maintain our own personal center, then we can be grounded and enlightened and feel safe and secure within any type of storm. We maintain our poise and our truth in the center, the eye of the hurricane. While the rest of the world loses its mind, we feel that we are safe and grounded. And when we feel fear arise, we look behind it. We look into the shadow and we ask it what it has to teach us or tell us, to gather the strength and courage to move beyond the obstacle of fear, which sometimes can be called false evidence appearing real. We're talking about fostering our own reality here, and the fear threshold of leaving something behind and letting yourself go out and have these new experiences. So yeah, options here. So I've got these other two decks I want to look at, but before we go, I accidentally flipped, or no, I know what it was. I was testing my camera and I had already shuffled this deck and I picked up this card to test the lighting. And do you see, this is the medicine circle. So what's behind medicine wheel over here? Beautiful. That's the time master. Revealing the circle. I love it when stuff comes together. And below that, the hunter. So again, with something that we've been looking for something, and it talks about find the good. It's always there. Find Sherlock. We're investigating something. What's in it for us? What's calling us forward? And so we've got this time and the circle. There's some type of connection, community, sharing our resources forward. The medicine wheel and the circle, the sacred circle of connecting with other individuals around meditation circles, gatherings, intentional spaces, the circle of friends, the people that surround us, the resources and sharing. Circles are so sacred in so many ways. So there's some type of possibly community building or travel that's going on here as well. Then we've got this, of course, this beautiful connection here. I think that medicine wheel and the medicine circle with the circle is incredible. So it tells me also, this is the number one card I'm seeing too. Yes, I want to tell you one more thing before we get back to this. Of course, the medicine wheel talks about so many things, animal totems and so on. But in this, the I Ching workbook, RL Wing, to give credit there, before the reading, I was looking into things, asking about my own stuff, and then I was asking about what needs to come into the reading. And the ones that I was getting to come into the reading, I got 36 and 37, which in this book talks about, there was some, I need to pull it up. 37 is family, 36 is censorship, darkening of the light in this book. And so censoring and darkening of the light, I feel like there's this need to make some moves in silence. And then we're getting this kind of detective-y, what you're looking for, finding what you seek perhaps. And within this, it looks like, again, there's some kind of something that's arisen that makes you maybe uncomfortable or makes you think that it's time for you to explore something greater, something bigger. And so it looks as though, and I'll share my previous messages. One of them was the subordinate, and it talks about how within something there may be extra people where one person has to take the back seat. And I was getting the sorcerer's apprentice with that, how the apprentice is anxious to prove himself. And it's not that he doesn't have great skills. However, he throws on the master's hat and takes his wand and he creates all kind of mischief and mayhem. And it's because he went too fast, too far. And he didn't respect the limits of his own power, or the limits of his knowledge compared to the amount of power he was able to wield, especially wearing those items. So the power of our words, the power of our actions and deeds are extreme. And so when we're getting the master's knowledge, we are wielding the master's wand. And it's always important to make sure that the individuals that we're sharing in our insights or our resources with are in their integrity and will utilize those resources appropriately, because otherwise we may be feeding the darkness, if you catch my drift. But that's not an excuse not to do our service work, but it's definitely a justification to say, well, I've given you enough. It's time for you to move on your own journey. You need to do the sacred work. I'm not going to just give you insights on the phone and just call it good. You need to walk the walk of your journey and choose for yourself, for instance. And so I feel you kind of pushing out of this space where you've been playing to a small group and needing to expand. But because it's time for you to move in this very positive, higher dimensional truth, you're making these big boss moves. You're gaining some type of possibly mentorship or moving into a bigger pond. For instance, now we have to figure out what was acceptable in the small pond might not be acceptable here, or the things that we talked about here. I'm getting that whether we're talking about people or current events, or whether we're talking about teachings, or whether we're talking about transpersonal and ascension, not to make things better or worse. There's a time and a place for everything. But what do we do with that knowledge? How do we plug it into our process and become something even greater? It's like, now that we've been doing all these boss moves here and outgrown something, there's a need to kind of move in silence while we assess now what is the good in it, what we're taking with us, what are our options, where are we going, what do we have to share, and what are others sharing with us and giving back to us? What is that emotional, psychic energy and impulse telling us to learn about what comes next for us? And with Medicine Wheel, I feel like you are gaining some type of deeper, fuller activation and initiation at this time, where things are going to start shifting, but it may be important for you to somewhat subordinate your extreme power and knowledge so that you can gain some new insights about how to streamline, how to focus, how to consolidate and make some new things happen in your life. And so also we as people and beings, we are sort of the sum of the parts of what we nourish ourselves with and what we surround ourselves with. So the people, places, things, environments, the foods, the music, the knowledge, the social media that we take into ourselves is all creating what comes back out for this overflow. So before we move on here to the next deck, I'll just read this. It says number 30. Whoever relies on the Tao in governing men doesn't try to force issues or defeat enemies by force of arms. For every force, there is a counter force. Violence, even well-intentioned, always rebounds upon oneself. The master does his job and then stops. He understands that the universe is forever out of control and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao. Because he believes in himself, he doesn't try to convince others. Because he's content with himself, he doesn't need others' approval. And because he accepts himself, the whole world accepts him. So you've reached a level of growth and personal self-acceptance where you no longer need to go around in these smaller environments. Your knowledge is becoming vaster, and so you are going further. It's like because you're bigger, you've outgrown the nest. Didn't I see the nest? I did. The bird's nest is the one that came out with the lightning and the will, wisdom, and the mind. I think I need to use that deck too. But because this is the daily Dharma, I do like to throw a few code cards. Let's be quick about the shuffle, Spirit. A few more. Get them out. Last time. Take that one and that one. One more. All right, that does it. Under the deck, compassion. Also number 15, corresponding with this dust devil. Something that has held us stagnant for some time here is, okay, healing and compassion, not making judgments, or yes, when we're leaving things behind, not feeling this difference of levels or values, staying in the center, non-judgmental. There's something coming through about that change here. Discernment, I think of the type of behaviors that and speech and insights and what we have, our gifts, how we're giving them forward. We are discerning how we are needing to move forward, what our actions are going to be, what's motivating us, what's inspiring us, and what do we do about that. Third eye chakra, pineal perspective is so beautiful here. Exactly, we're using this third eye discernment and really making some big choices about the use of our power and the use of our voice and how we communicate and co-create with those around us. I feel like you're beginning to create with new individuals. Oh, perfect. We got these two yesterday, but they were right together. And I promise you, I did shuffle them quite a bit today. Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine here. A very balanced and inspired beingness and doing at the same time. And here's this cosmic flower is reminding me that earlier the Divine Feminine came out with fertility, and the Divine Masculine came out with something else that I can't recall in this moment. And here we have Earth Star Chakra Initiation, number 1 in this deck. And yes, the medicine wheel is number 1, initiation into, it could be something native, indigenous inspired. Oh, and we have the high heart chakra, ecstatic bliss. Exactly, living a life from more joy and groundedness, being the center of that hurricane, being able to see through things. And we are initiating many others exponentially as we travel around. But there's something about being humble and allowing others that would seem to be even subordinate to us to teach us in turn, but to recognize that no matter how knowledgeable, wise, and powerful we are, that we are also always the student as well. And so, Spirit's leading you to have some very extremely powerful initiations again, activations. And it's like you're standing super tall, standing in your power, healing. Yeah, we knew that healing was going to come out. It's like the whole resonance of your system through these previous processes has really elevated, and now there's this balanced masculine feminine. You know what you know, and you'll share what you know, and in a kindness, and then you'll move forward without any judgments or love lost. Mount Shasta, I believe that you're going to need to do some traveling. Some of you may be traveling far and wide and going to uh, vortices and things like that, ley lines, charging the earth with your medicine. And everybody has their own specific medicine, but it looks here that we're also connecting the earth grid with the cosmic grid. So it looks like we're right at the end of the video. So instead of getting too many other decks out right now, as much as I want to, let's go ahead and finish up with some Oracle from Whispers of the Ocean. Something otherworldly in the ocean too, coming forward. So yeah, you're really channeling a lot of energy, power, and you've been adrift. There's another number 15. You may be seeing these synchronicities. Adrift in shallow water. Take a few breaths and reconnect to your inner peace. Notice the small things and appreciate them. So sometimes the good is always there, even if they didn't mean it. So even if somebody is playing small in some type of a way, oh my gosh, diving to new depths from these shallow waters. Exactly. We are taking them to different levels in some type of a shamanic way when we're activating this powerful ability within ourselves. We're bringing others up with us through our resonance like a tuning fork, and we'll be diving to these new depths with these new experiences and explorations. There's a deeper meaning to what's happening here. You may be looking at this from the surface and missing what's really going on. Take a moment to pause and to breathe. Allow yourself to dive deeper into what it is that you're feeling about your current situation. Your third eye chakra is very awakened, and you know ultimately where you're going. It's just there's some loyalties and adventures that you're sorting out and putting into perspective before there's this, again, with this healing energy here that is talking about dancing in the rainbow. There's this rainbow activation coming through. It's like I'm being reminded of this channeling. It's been coming through. We're always in tune with our highest self. And so we can always work on aligning with that highest timeline. It's always there helping us and tutoring us. Break free from whatever has been holding you back and in this stagnant dust devil energy. Express happiness and joy. Find out what it is that you truly desire. 3333. You're on a pathway of self